It started the way most impossible things do, minus with a child asking a question nobody expected. Jake Mercer was sitting on a park bench, watching his daughter Maya on the swings, when three identical girls appeared in front of him. Same dark eyes, same serious expression, same way of standing with their arms crossed like small attorneys preparing a case. The one in the middle pointed at his forearm. "Our mom has that exact tattoo," she said. Jake looked down at the insignia on his arm minus the crest. Of the 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, a unit so specific that he had met exactly 4 other men in civilian life who recognized it. He had worn it for 11 years. He had never once had a 9-year-old point at it. "What's your mom's name?" he asked, carefully. The girl in the middle looked at her sisters, then back at him. She said if we ever saw that tattoo on a stranger, we had to find out who they were. Jake went very still. Jake Mercer was 34 years old and had been raising Maya alone since she was 2, after her mother left, and the world rearranged itself into something smaller and quieter than he had planned. He had served 2 tours with the 3rd Battalion. He had come home with the tattoo, a slight hearing loss in his left ear, and the particular stillness of a man who has learned not to flinch at loud noises by learning to hear them coming first. He had lost brothers over there. Most of them he carried quietly, the way veterans do, minus not dramatically, but completely. Every day, in the ordinary moments when something small reminds you of someone large. The name the middle girl told him, minus when he finally asked minus, was Sergeant Danny Reyes. Jake closed his eyes for exactly 1 second. Danny Reyes had been his closest friend in the unit, the man who had covered Jake's position on a night in Helmand Province that Jake did not talk about with anyone. The man who had shown Jake a photograph of his pregnant wife exactly 3 weeks before he didn't come home. Jake had attended the funeral. He had tried to find the family afterward, minus to say something, to do something, to be useful in the way soldiers try to be useful when there is nothing useful left to do. The address he had didn't work. The phone number rang and rang. He had never found them until 9-year-old girls with Danny's eyes crossed a park and pointed at his arm. If you believe that the people we lose find ways to send us exactly who we need, minus please, take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone you love and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because what Jake was about to learn about why those girls had been told to find him minus and how little time was left, minus is something that will stay with you long after this video ends. The girls' names were Rosa, Elena, and Lucia. They were 9 years old and had been raised by their mother, Sophia, in a small house on Carpenter Street, 12 minutes from the park where they had just found Jake. They told him about their mother in the careful, practiced way of children who have been coached on what to share with strangers minus enough to be understood, not so much as to be vulnerable. Sophia had been sick for 2 years. She was getting better some days and worse on others, and the doctors used words the girls had learned to spell, but not yet fully understand. What they understood was this: their mother had a box under her bed. In it was a photograph of their father in uniform, standing with his unit, and next to him, arm. Around his shoulder was a man with the same tattoo their mother had gotten after their father died, minus the insignia of his unit, worn on her wrist, like a promise she had made to someone she never met. Sophia had told the girls, "Your father talked about one man more than anyone else. His name was Jake. If anything happens to me, I need you to find him. He will know what to do." She had told them this 6 months ago, on a day when the doctors had been particularly honest. The girls had been looking ever since. Jake drove to Carpenter Street that same afternoon with Maya in the back seat, and 9-year-olds giving directions from memory with the confident authority of children who have rehearsed this Jake in the hourly many times in their heads. Sophia answered the door herself, minus thinner than the woman in the photograph he had seen 11 years ago, but with the same steady eyes her daughters had inherited, and the particular grace of someone who has decided to spend whatever energy remains on the things that matter. She looked at him for a long moment, then at the tattoo on his arm. "You're Jake," she said. "Not a question. Danny talked about you every day," she said. "He said if anything ever happened to him, you were the one person he trusted to minus." She stopped, pressed her lips together, gathered herself the way people do when they have been saving a sentence for a very long time, and the moment to say it has finally arrived. He trusted you to make sure his girls knew they had someone. The box under the bed was exactly where the girls had described it. Sophia brought it to the kitchen table and opened it with the steadiness of someone who has opened it many times alone and is glad, finally, not to be alone for this. Inside, the unit photograph, Danny's service medals. A child's drawing minus crayon, clearly made before the girls were old enough to know what they were drawing, minus of 3 stick figures holding hands labeled in careful letters, Rosa, Elena, Lucia, and at the bottom an envelope, sealed. Jake's name, written on the front in handwriting, he recognized immediately minus the same handwriting, from letters Danny had read aloud in the barracks on mail days. Laughing at his wife's complaints about his inability to fold laundry. He wrote it before the last deployment, Sophia said quietly. He made me promise not to open it. He said it was for you. He said you'd know when the time was right. Jake held the envelope for a long moment without opening it. Rosa, Elena, and Lucia sat at the kitchen table, watching him with identical expressions of contained patience, minus the particular patience of children who have been waiting for something for a very long time, and are very nearly there. He opened it. The letter was 2 pages. He read the first half in silence. Then Sophia asked him, very quietly, if he would read it aloud. He did. Danny had written about the night in Helmand Province, about what Jake had done, minus a version of events that Jake had never told. Anyone had filed away under the category of things that happened and were over. Danny had written it down in full, in his careful handwriting, and addressed it to the man he trusted most. He had written, if you're reading this, then something went wrong on my end. I need you to know that whatever comes next for my family, minus you're the reason there is a next. Take care of my girls the way you took care of me. That's all I'm asking. That's everything I'm asking. The kitchen was completely silent. When Jake finished reading, Maya, who had been sitting quietly beside her father the whole time, reached up and put her small hand in his. In the weeks that followed, Jake learned the full weight of what Sophia had been carrying alone. The illness had progressed in the slow, relentless way that doesn't give clean timelines. She had good weeks and hard ones. She had declined offers of help with the particular pride of someone who has been managing alone so long that accepting feels like surrender. Jake understood this. He had the same instinct. He ignored it in both of them. He began showing up the way Danny would have, minus practically, without fanfare, without making it into something that required gratitude or discussion. Groceries on Tuesdays. School pickup when Sophia had hospital appointments. Weekend afternoons, when 4 children could run the yard loud enough to drive 2 parents to the porch for quiet coffee. Rosa, Elena, and Lucia adopted Maya with the seamless certainty of children, who have always known exactly who belongs in their orbit. Maya, for her part, had never had sisters and took to the role with an enthusiasm that occasionally required adult supervision. Sophia watched all of this from the porch one evening, minus the 4 children. The yard, Jake with a coffee cup, talking to no one in particular about something that was making him laugh, minus. And she said, quietly, to no one in particular, he said you'd know what to do. I really didn't, Jake said. I just showed up. That's what knowing what to do looks like, Sophia said. The treatment that turned things around came 4 months later, minus a clinical trial Sophia had been waitlisted for since the previous year. The results were cautious but real. The doctors used words like responding and monitoring and cautiously optimistic, which in the language of serious illness means something close to hope. Jake was in the waiting room when Sophia came out after the results appointment. He had driven her. He had not asked if she wanted him to. He had simply said he would be there. She sat down beside him and didn't say anything for a moment. Then she said, he was right about you. Jake didn't answer. He looked at his hands for a moment, minus at the tattoo on his forearm, the insignia he had worn for 11 years, without knowing it was also a map. He was right about a lot of things, Jake said finally. Outside in the parking lot, 3 9-year-olds and 1 8-year-old were conducting what appeared to be a very serious debate about something involving a juice box and a disputed rule. Maya's voice was loudest. This was becoming a pattern. Sophia laughed, minus really laughed, the way she hadn't in a long time. Jake thought Danny would have loved this. He was pretty sure Danny had planned it. If this story reminded you that the people we love find ways to take care of us even after they're gone, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Before you go, tell us in the comments, has someone you've lost ever felt present in a moment when you needed them most? Tell us about them. Let this be the place where we remember them together. Because somewhere on Carpenter Street, a park bench sits in the afternoon light, where 9-year-old girls once walked up to a stranger and pointed at his arm. They were doing exactly what their father asked. He had taught them to recognize the people worth finding and trusted them to do it when he no longer could.